Hello everybody and welcome back to the British Pokemon League show. We've got an extra special episode today. It is the mid-season special. Of course, we had this last season where we're going to talk through the season so far. We're going to talk a little bit about every team's changes. There's been a lot of them, so there's a lot to get through. And then we're going to take a look at the fixtures for next week and sort of the business end of the season as we move into it now, as we like to say. There's 5 weeks of season 2 left, which is just blown away, absolutely blown away. It's once again went so quickly. I know we've had less weeks officially this time, but like, damn, we're nearly. I missed the pink hair as well, Doug. Story. It was supposed to last a bit longer than a week, but it's okay. We're rocking the blonde for now. It's because England are playing to die. I've got a bet with the people who I work with that if we win, I'll get the Phil Foden cut and hair. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, guys, without further ado, let's take a quick look at the league tables as we move into the free agency period that we are now coming to a close to. First, have a look at the British Pokemon League East Division, and as you can see, still sat perched atop of the East Division. Inglorious Surfers, Aaron T. Marshall, 5-0, unbeaten, has not dropped a single game since week 1. Aaron is a game away from pretty much qualifying for playoffs, which is crazy to say at the midpoint. I don't think anyone could have predicted that anyone in any team in either division was going to be like so far ahead of everyone. I certainly didn't. I knew obviously Aaron is a good player, and this is not a discredit Aaron at all. I just thought it was going to be a lot closer than it is, but it proved me wrong. In second place, alongside Celtic Celebies in third on the 3-2 record, we've got South Croydon Soz, getting a big win over Newcastle Thunderers week 5, and it definitely needed that one after the loss to Aaron the previous week. So a good win puts Crizzle in a good stead going into week 6. As we just said, Celtic Celebies on the same record, mirroring my team, Bulu Boys Farm, in the East Division. Draco lost the first 2 games and hasn't lost a single game since. Has won every game since. So is right on form right now, and is looking very promising going into the next half. Next up in 4th, we've got Torstar Belgrade. Unfortunately, coming up against the mighty Inglorious Surfers in week 5, not able to topple the might that is that team, losing out 2-0. There's a very interesting record that I didn't realise that you will see in a little bit when we go over the teams for Torstar Belgrade, to do with that result, which is actually crazy in itself. But yeah, we'll definitely be looking to try and sort of bounce back as we move into the second half of the season. And of course, down there in the bottom, in the quote-unquote, not really relegation places, but the 2 spots where you will not be making playoffs, Newcastle Thunderers and the Shadow Kings down there in 1 and 4 records. It's not been plain sailing for these 2 teams at all. I don't think too much has went massively wrong. I will say as well for Dave, in Dave's defence, he's been ill with COVID for the last couple of weeks. So, all things considered, I think he's doing alright, to be honest. There's plenty of Pokemon still left to play, as we like to say. And I know for a fine fact that Dave can make a bounce back. I mean, if you look at the mid-season special in Season 1, he was bottom of the table. He was 2-5, I believe. Just the 2 wins, and it was looking down and out. And we got to week 12, and had we not had a dropout, Dave had every chance of still making the winners bracket in playoffs. It just pulled 4 wins out of nowhere. So definitely can't shoot Dave down yet. And the same with Dogsy Shadow Kings as well. Was in the low half of the season, low half of the table for the most last season. Didn't quite make the winners bracket, and then just stormed the losers bracket, and almost got all the way to the grand finals. And I fully expect them to do the same thing in the second half of this season. So do not count either of those teams out. Absolutely anyone could still make it in. But I will say it's a very good bet, unless something goes horribly wrong for Aaron's Inglorious Surfers, that he is going to be playoffs bound. So, but we will see. Anyways, over in the West Division, it's a similar story. Latvia's Miami Heat still unbeaten, still have not dropped a single game thus far in Season 2. As I said, I don't think anyone could have possibly predicted that this would happen. We all know how good Lat is. He's a Season 1 champion. It's like, again, can't sit here and shoot him down and discredit that. But again, I still thought it'll be pretty close. I can see Lat still, in first place, but he just doesn't lose. Just no one can beat him, man. It's crazy. In second place, we've got my Bully Boys on a 3-2 record, as we just spoke about with Draco. I lost the first 2 games this season, didn't make the best of starts, and then have proceeded to win the next 3 games on the bounce. So very happy with that. Was always the aim to finish on a positive record going at the halfway point. Have managed that. Feeling pretty chuffed about that. So don't have too many complaints. Third place, alongside the Silver Septars and Long Island Goomies, all on the 2-3 record. California Bastiodons. I've spoken about this in previous shows. Oma's form is really weird. There's no consistency to it at all, and again, that's not a dig at Oma. It's just like he loses one week, he wins the next, he loses, then he wins. It's just like very topsy-turvy form, and if anything that this league's proved over the last 2 seasons is consistency is definitely key. So I know Omer will be looking to try and find some consistency as we move into the second half, and he'll be definitely aiming to get playoffs. Jabba, unfortunately, has sort of had the opposite run to myself. Won the first 2 games of the season, made an absolutely amazing start of his debut season in the British Bottom League, and it's kind of went a little bit sort of Pete Tong, bit topsy-turvy, and not topsy-turvy, bit up the creek without a paddle, unfortunately, for Jabba. Lost 3 games on the trot. Culminating in that 2-1 loss to the Goomies in week 5. And I know Jabba's a very young, hungry player, and I know for a fact he'll be looking to try and kickstart things in week 6. Silly's Long Island Goomies looked very scary for Silly for a second. Won in week 1 and then just proceeded to just not win any more games up until we got a week 5. It was looking very worrying. But we know Silly's a solid player. And always has a trick up his sleeve, and I'm sure with his changes he's made going into the second half of the season, we'll see a different side of him. And down there at the bottom, on the 1-4 record, 200 Candies. Not been a great start of life in the British Bottom League for Candies. Obviously lost out in week 1, lost to week 2. Did get the 2-0 win over the Bastiodons, which was really huge for him. Definitely needed that win. But then has lost the next 2 games, losing out to Latvians Miami Heat in week 5. Can he bounce back? Who knows? As we said in the East Division about Dave and Dogsy, they've got bounce back ability. There's absolutely no reason why Candies can't do that. Does have to be careful. If he loses too many games here, it could end up being ruled out of playoffs before we get to the end. So does need to be watchful of that. But Candies is a solid player. He's proven that he's very tricky and is able to sort of stall someone out and win the late game. So you can definitely you just can't you can't knock anyone, you can't rule anyone out. Had he been 0-5, it might have been a bit more of an argument of this could be quite difficult for him to bounce back from, but he's got that win, and as long as he can build on that, I can't see any reason why he can't back. Oh, hello, Weo's here. Anyway, without further ado, we are going to look at our first team and their changes, and we'll talk a little bit about their first half of the season. So we're going to start with the Miami Heat on a 5-0 record, as we spoke about. Haven't lost a single game so far. He's been on one crazy unbeaten run since the season 1 grand final. Obviously won 2-0 in the second best of 3, and has proceeded to not drop a game since. It's just 2-0ing everyone. I think the statement of intent was beating Omer in week 1. And I've spoken about this before, but during pre-season, Latvian said that Omer was his biggest rival and someone he was most concerned about. So to come in and just 2-0 his quote-unquote biggest rival like that in the fashion that he did was very crazy to see. And I think started as he meant to go on, and the next one was the 2-0 boot my Bully Boys in week 2. Just did not stand a chance there. Once Glacier got going, it was very hard to bounce back. And then has just proceeded to 2-0 every single other team. And like Aaron, just needs the week 6 win or a week 7 win, and he pretty much has confirmed himself for playoffs. It's a foregone conclusion at this point. Lat has made a few changes, as you can see there. There's just a few. Machamp has swapped out for Frostlass. Centre Scorch has went out for Tauros, and the prodigal son I'll be saying that a lot today, I will just warn you. The prodigal son has returned. Ash Food Single Strike Dark has gone to free agency. And Kangaskhan has returned to the Miami Heat. Kangaskhan, a mainstay of the Miami Heat Season 1 squad. So it's really great to see it back. Very excited to see what you can do with Tauros and Frostlass. Both sort of really solid Pokemon in their own right. But one thing to note is that Tauros does get the Anger Point ability, and Frostlass does have the Frost Breath. Is it Frost Breath? I believe is the move that always crits. So that's definitely gives another ace up Latvian Sleeve as something you can bring to sort of just surprise his opponent. So as if this team needed to get any better, it definitely did. So, you know, major props to Lat. Unfortunately, Lat isn't around to talk to today. I was hoping to speak to him, but we will catch him, I'm sure, next week. Try and get a few words from the man himself. But the team is still looking crazy, crazy scary going into the second half of the season. And as I said, I'm sure he's going to be looking to sort of secure himself that playoff spot. And then Lat is going to be all about planning for that playoffs. Second team coming up is the Bulu Boys. Sat there on the 3-2 record, as we already spoke about. Rillaboom with the most kills, 11 kills on a 3-game winning streak. I didn't make the greatest start of the season, I won't lie. That week 1 loss to Jabba kind of sucked ass. More so because I just made so many personal mistakes that game. And that's not to sit there and shit talk Jabba. Jabba deserved the win. He's a good player. But I just did not play that very well at all. It was always going to be a tough task to beat Lat as well. But just got the call completely wrong in that game, and then a mistake with the Buccephalo. I think that might be like one of my like crowning like terrible moments is like having Buccephalo on the field alongside Rillaboom, and clicking Mind Blown and not swapping in the Steam Train. But not to worry. I'm kind of happy with where the team is at going into that mid-season point, so I'm hoping I can keep the winning runs going. But as you can see there, we've made quite a lot of changes. When I say quite a lot, I mean pretty much the whole team, barring Mesprit, has changed. So we now have Charizard is our new G-Max. Then we also have the Venocol duo, the Titan Series 7, Series 9 duo of Venocol. We've got Klefki as a sort of prankster support mon alongside Raichu as well, which is Lightning Rod user, fake out user, you know, Volt Switch, all that jazz. Then we've got Garchomp, which I swapped out for the Blacephalon. That was probably the only change where I was a bit like, do I, don't I? Because Blacephalon honestly saved me in at least 2 or 3 games in the first half of the season. It won me the game versus the Goomies, for sure. And I would say, even though it died in the first 10 of both games versus Bastiodons, to be fair, it probably won me both of those games as well. So it was very difficult to part with it, but I knew what I wanted from the team, and I'm glad I got Garchomp. So got Alola Ninetales coming in for the Cloyotsa, Cradley coming in for Xatu. Obviously, Mesprit stays. #Mesprit stays. Couldn't part with that Pokemon. It's when I picked it up, I wasn't really sure exactly what I could do with it. I just knew it was a good Trick Room user, and obviously he had Imprison. And this thing is just, there's so many different avenues you can. It's basically like a sort of bargain bin Mew, is what I like to describe it as. We also picked up Celio from Draco's Celebes, and we got Sudowoodo from the Long Island Goomies. We'll point out as well that we picked up Raichu from the Torsab Belgrade and Klefki from Newcastle Thunderous. Venusaur and Torkoal coming the other way from the South Croydon Saws. Rillaboom and Tornadus heading their way. So we've made quite a few changes. We made all of our free agency picks as well, and I'm pretty happy with how the team's looking going into the second half. And just gotta reach playoffs now, and I'll be pretty chuffed for that. Anyway, our next team is the California Bastiodons. As we said earlier, they made a little bit of a topsy-turvy start. You know, it's like Oma wins 1 week and he loses the next week. Important to note that he hasn't had a single match so far go to a game 3. If he wins, it's a 2-0. If he loses, it's a 2-0. And as you can see there, as well as Metagross, the absolute mad lad that Metagross is, sat there on 19 kills. It is the kill leader in the entirety of the British Pokemon League. Not many people have had an answer for that Metagross, let's be honest. You know, when he wins, it's usually because that Metagross has actually went on an absolute tear, and can be very, very difficult to stop. You know, that alongside the weakness policy proc of Dugtrio with the Bulldoze, or, you know, alongside the Hitmontop, which is just such a great support, man. Running a jetpack on the Hitmontop as well, which means Hitmontop can even get a close combat out and switch out, or if he gets a stat drop, he switches out and it keeps him in the game for a bit longer. We've also seen Chandelure and Sylveon come a few times as well. Sylveon's been really strong behind the substitute. And the Rapid Strike Airstrews came once or twice, I believe. Hasn't really had the effect that it had in Silly's hands in Season 1, but I think it has been solid for him when it has came. As you can see from the transaction screen, only the one change going in the second half. Komo-O for Aerodactyl. Komo-O didn't come at all during those first 5 games, so I can understand why he's made that swap, to be honest. You know, just didn't want that 4 times fairy weakness, and I don't blame him. Aerodactyl is a solid one. I don't think I've seen it at all in like Series 7 or Series 9 or just Sword and Shield VGC in general, so it'll be very interesting to see what Oma can sort of pull off with it. But no other changes up so far. I know Oma was hoping to trade out his Dugtrio, but hasn't been able to do so thus far, and hasn't got very long to get that transfer done either, so if he's going to get it done, it needs to be soon. But yeah, I think Oma's team is so solid. That Metagross is definitely going to keep him in the running for playoffs for sure, and that's not to call him a one-trick pony, but Oma's got such a strong team there. It's so well-rounded, and there's a lot of different options there, and obviously he's got the Storm Drain for Gastrodon as well, which, you know, there's a few mons in there that are weak to water. I say a few, there's like 2. But yeah, Gastrodon's a good support mon all the same, and yeah, I know Oma for a fact is going to be looking to try and secure that playoffs. Anyway, next team is the Slithering Sceptiles, which we spoke about during the looking at the league tables. Won his first 2 games, and unfortunately lost the next 3 coming into week 5. As you see at the bottom there, on a 3-game losing streak. Dracozolt is the kill leader for his team, but as you can see on the transaction screen, Dracozolt is gone. So that's like, I think, the 2nd or 3rd team so far that their kill leader has been banished to the depths of free agency. Jabba's team has been really, really good thus far. The Sandstream Sandrush duo of Dracozolt T-Tar has been a lot for people to stop. I found it personally difficult to stop in week 1, and also Candies as well in week 2 found it, you know, as a really, really difficult adversary. So it's, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if he can bring it back. I believe he can. He's just, you know, that game, that week 2 versus Candies might be my favorite game so far. It didn't seem to go on forever and ever and ever, but like Jabba was just able to play around all the stat drops and the bans and stuff, and it was just mwah. It was chef's kiss for sure, and it did sort of flex his talents in that respect. But as you can see, looking at the transaction, Sandaconda, another team swaps out their GMAX. Sandaconda has gone and he's picked up Toxtricity. T-Tar has went to the Celebies, which we'll talk about the Celebies very shortly. And in return, he has picked up Tapu Koko from free agency. Dracozolt has went to the South Croydon Saws. Again, we will speak about Dracozolt a little bit later on. And he's picked up his mascot Pokemon in Sceptile. And Sceptile is a really, really interesting Pokemon, just purely because it's a fast Pokemon anyway. But you can run that with an Unburden, and you can either run it with a Berry if you've got something to set terrain, or you can run it with Weakness Policy if you can self-proc that Weakness Policy somehow. Or if the opponent procs it, then not only has it now got the special attack buff, but it's also got a started going very, very fast. So it definitely can do some damage. Slash has swapped out for the Weavile. Weavile making his return to the British Pokemon League. Obviously was a mainstay in the Long Island Goomies squad. Was it Long Island Goomies last season he was on? I want to say. I actually don't remember now. Anyways, and Grovyle has swapped out for Wailord. I think he was just wanting a different option for his tier 5 there, so I don't blame that at all. But that is a very, very solid looking team. you know, as said, Coco with the Electric Surge could run the Sceptile with Electric Seed. That's not only going to buff Sceptile's defense, but is also going to proc that on Burden as well. So that'll be a duo to watch out for. We know just how good Arcanine can be as well. Obviously, he typically runs with Intimidate, but did try a strat where he ran Justified Arcanine. That strat might be easier to get off now that he's got Weavile, which is obviously going to be going very, very speedy fast. Can get something going there and get that Justified strat off and make Arcanine very difficult to stop. Togekiss, you know, is such a strong follow me user. Just because it's so damn bulky, it's just, you know, if you're running sort of full investment in defense, special defense, HP, can be very, very difficult to stop. And he obviously can run that alongside Bronzong to get Trick Room going and run a sort of Trick Room setup. So two different ways that he can run his team. He can run in either fast setting or a slow setting. So Jabba is certainly someone to keep an eye on as we move into the second half of the season, looking to bounce back. Then next team up is the Long Island Goomies, also on the 2-3 record. Did end his 3-game winning streak in week 5, as you can see there. Did beat out the Slithering Sceptiles in a 2-1 fashion. I think Silly definitely needed that. It was definitely getting a little bit concerning that it was just obviously no wins since week 1, and that was very unlike Silly. But that's sort of attributed to such the competitiveness of the West Division. You know, that someone like Silly, who was pretty much in that top 4 all of season 1 in the winners bracket, would be struggling in that way. Dragalge sat there on the most kills, 8 kills. I think if you looked at his team before the season started, especially picking up the Hat and Didi duo that was so damn strong for Aaron last season, you wouldn't expect Dragalge to be up there with the most kills, but damn, that thing with the weakness policy proc from Mr. Ryan has been so good for him. You know, it's what you kind of want to see. You want to see these unexpected mons, you know, picking up the reins and not dragging a team to success as such, but, you know, putting in the work. Excadrill as well has been super strong for him so far. He's tried the weakness policy proc on it a few times. With Starmie, it didn't quite work out against Oma's Bastiodons purely because there was some speed investment in Metagross, so when Bulldoze went off, it made Excadrill like I think 1 point slower than Metagross. So really fine margins that he's been losing by, to be honest. And you know, you look at the game versus myself, Bully Boys, that game was over if the Blacephalon doesn't get a crit on the Mind Blown. So he's a talented player. We know how good he is, and I'm pretty sure that he's gonna definitely go for that top 4 finish. I don't think he's gonna remain in 5th place for too much longer. You know, hopefully he can build on that week 5 win. But looking at his changes, as you can see there, the Hatterene and Indeedee has gone the journey. And in return from the Shadow Kings, we have got the Urshifu Single Strike G-Max and the Clefairy. So getting 2 really strong Pokemon there. A really, really good follow me mon in Clef. You know, Clef with Eviolite can be really, really difficult to stop. And the Urshifu Dark. I don't like Urshifu Dark over Urshifu's Rapid Strike personally, just because of that 4 times Fairy weakness, but in the right hands, that Single Strike G-Max Urshifu can be really, really, really difficult to stop. So we'll definitely see what he can manage with that team. Sudowoodo, as we already spoke about, has went to the Bully Boys, and in return he got Relicanth, which he did swap out for the Hippopotas. Hydreigon has went to free agency, and in return he's picked up Milotic, a competitive with a competitive ability. It's pretty much, as Silly described it, an FU to Intimidate. Not that there's too much Intimidate running in our division, but you know, any kind of stat drops, and Milotic's going to take full advantage of that. A very familiar face has gone to the Shadow Kings as well. Slowbro Galar has went that way. And in return, Silly has swapped out. I'm unsure what he got from the Shadow Kings, but he's got Flapple in return either way. And to finish off, Starmie has gone the journey and he's picked up Boltund. Boltund making his return to the British Pokemon League. We saw it in Inglorious Surfer's team during the season 1. Can run it either way. You can either run it with competitive, like Milotic, or you can run it with Strong Jowl. Is a very, very strong support man. Obviously has that Electrify move as well, which if you can pull it off, turns all moves to that turn to Electric type, or turns the target's move to Electric type, and that can be really, really sort of strong, just to sort of get some get some D-Max, G-Max moves wasted, or just to sort of annoy your opponent. So definitely something to watch out for. But I would think that Excadrill is going to be putting in a lot of work in the second half of the season as well, alongside Milotic. Milotic, on its day can be difficult to stop. Galarian Zapdos as well, on the few occasions it came during the first half of the season, has been really strong, was really strong against 200 candies. It's that thunderous kick move can really hit hard. Slowbro went to free agency. Okay, that was it. I got mixed up because I knew you picked up Slowbro, but I wasn't sure if it was a trade. My bad. And as you can see as well, there's a Flapple in there as well, so another Dragon type. And it is not the G-Max version of Flapple, but Flapple, with under gravity can be a really strong Pokemon with that Grab Apple. Of course, he keeps the Fletchling. Didn't see any of the Fletchling up until week 5, and I was kind of disappointed, but when he finally did bring it, oh man, proving just how strong of a Pokemon that Fletchling is. Oh man, what an absolute mad lad. Fletching's such a meme. But yeah. Oh man. Anyway, really great stuff to see from Wasili getting that win, and we'll see what he can do in that second half. Finally, our final team of the East Division is the 200 Candies team. No transactions up to now, although we did just get a very late transaction early this morning before I was able to change it on the screen. Has picked up Airshrew Single Strike, the non-G-Max version, for Nihil Lego, so has made the one change as we move into the second half of the season. As we spoke about a little bit earlier, Candy's not made the best of starts. Is on a 3-game losing streak right now. And is 1-4. Yeah, it's I don't think anything's went massively wrong for him, to be honest. Obviously got beaten quite sort of thoroughly in week 5 by Latvian, but to be honest, Miami Heat Latvian have done that to everyone, so I don't think that's too much sort of reflection on Candy's ability. He got the win over the almost California Bastions, and it's pretty much, if he has lost a game, it's been via a 2-1. So he always at least gets a game back. I just think sometimes the sort of he's become a little bit, and I don't mean this in a negative way, he's become a little bit predictable with like the Torracat and Jinx and the Butterfree. Pretty much people always know he's going to bring the Butterfree and either the Torracat or the Jinx. So it kind of becomes a bit easy to play around that. We found that in Season 1 with Gus as Aurora Articuno. Obviously, he was always bringing the Duskups and the Lapras, and once people sort of catched onto that, it became sort of blatantly obvious what was going on, and it becomes a little bit easier to play around. But that Dragon Ball, with 9 kills, Dragon Ball has been putting in the work for Candies. When he's been running it with the Life Orb, it's been very, very difficult to stop. I said that the times that he's won when he's brought in the late game, it really, really is a strong Pokemon. Hasn't really used the Snorlax G-Max much to its to effect just yet, but I would imagine once it gets going, he can maybe give that a try in the second half of the season. Porygon 2 has really been only really been using Porygon 2 as a support mon. Obviously in Season 1 we saw Porygon 2 as a strong special attack mon for the Beauty Boys. Haven't really seen that side of it yet for Candies, but it has been good. It's been a good Trick Room setter, and this thing doesn't die when it's got the Eevee left, so it's a good Pokemon, and once it's used to its potential, can be very difficult stuff. Terrakion as well. We didn't see Terrakion too much to begin with, but once the beat up strat started coming out, that Terrakion, oh boy, if you don't see the beat up strat coming and you don't have a way to stop it, it can be really, really difficult to sort of keep under wraps. We saw it against the Buddha Boys, did get the beat up strat off once or twice, unfortunately not able to get the win that time, but Terrakion is a really good Pokemon. And it is a good asset to the 200 Candies team. As we said during talking through the tables, just because he's 1-4, you definitely can knock him, you can count him out of it. There's still 5 weeks of Pokemon left to go, and absolutely anything could happen. He could go on and win all 5 of his remaining games. And he's not mathematically out of the running for playoffs yet, so definitely don't count him out. He's got a good team, he's got a good mindset, and is a very solid player and smart player as well. So we'll definitely see what Candies can do as we move on towards playoffs. Anyways, moving on to the East Division. we have got the man, the myth, the legend that is Aaron's inglorious surfers on the 5-0 record. 5-0. As you can see, there hasn't dropped a single game since week 1. Obviously, dropped that game to the Celtic Celebes in week 1, and at that point, it was like, okay, right, okay, so that's a good start for Aaron. We'll see what happens. And then since then, it's kind of just went on the Latvian Miami Heat run of just 2-0ing everyone. A few people have came close, I will admit, to taking a game from him, but just no one close enough. That team is just so strong. That duo of Thunderous, the Prankster Thunderous with Kingdra has been such a strong duo. You know, the Thunderous setting the rain for the Kingdra, and the Kingdra just absolutely just wiping the opponent team. Yes, I think like Solomon's and Dugsy's Shadow Kings came probably the closest to undoing that perfect streak. So it's been a very solid start of season 2, much better than season 1. By his own admittance, season 1 didn't start off the best, but he ended up finishing out strong. Didn't have the greatest of playoffs in season 1, but then has just been absolutely on point in season 2. And like Latvian, it's hard to imagine a world where he doesn't make playoffs on that 5-0 record. Obviously, it's still mathematically possible, so you can't write it off. But we will certainly see. But I fully expect him to make playoffs at this point. As we said, Kingdra sat there on 13 kills. But it's not even, not that I would ever call it that, but it's not even a one-trick pony. We've had Reggie Steele with Iron Defense and Amnesia just sit there and be a wall for Aaron and be so strong that the other coach has to deal with the Reggie Steele, and Aaron could just play around that so well. We've seen Tapu Bulu come a few times. Admittedly, he's not really been able to get that much out of Bulu, but is still a strong Pokemon. And then, of course, as you saw in week 5, the Galarian Moltres. What more can you say about Galar Moltres? With Policy and that Berserk ability, it's why this thing was so damn good in Series 7. And when he's needed to call upon it, it's been such a strong Pokemon. We haven't seen too much of the Pikachu G-Max, and I'll be honest, I really did expect Aaron to drop the Pikachu G-Max and try and pick up a better one during free agency, but that has not been the case. So obviously Aaron still has plans for the Pikachu G-Max. We will certainly see, but as you can see in the transaction screen, Atakuna Galar has went to free agency, and in return he has picked up the Mamoswine. Hawlucha, which I'm very surprised that Hawlucha was a very good Unburden user and just a good support one next to whatever was sweeping, has dropped for Gardevoir. Another surprise is Darmanitan. Darmanitan, I think, might be the second or third most kills on his team. It just hits so hard with the choice band. But he has dropped it for Mienshao, so Mienshao making its return to the British Pokemon League. Was obviously a mainstay in Dugsy's Shadow Kings team during Season 1, so great to see that Pokemon back. The one trade that he has made is Slurpuff has gone to the South Croydon Saws, and in return, Fletch Inda has made its return to the British Pokemon League in the form of Aaron's Season 2 team. And finally, Audino swapped out for free agency, and in return, he has picked up Dracloak. I think Dracloak's just a good sort of support option, or alternatively, he just picked it up just sort of in terms of points. Maybe he wasn't able to get the money one, but I'm sure you can. Knowing Aaron, he has a plan in place for the Dracloak, so we will certainly see what happens with that. There's definitely some interesting pickups. Mamoswine, also another one making its return to the British Pokemon League. Mienshao has been such a sort of strong support one in like Series 8, and as we've seen so far in Series 10, has Wide Guide, has Fake Out, has access to like close combat, gets coaching as well. And that sat next to a physical attack sweeper can be very dangerous indeed. Very interesting the Gardevoir as well. That's maybe just there as sort of a trick room setter. We will see. And the Fletchinder as well. Obviously gets Tailwind, you can run that with the Eviolite. It's not the bulkiest one, but with Gale Wings, as we've seen with Fletchling, can be a difficult one to stop. So Aaron's definitely made some strong pickups there for sure. He's looking very scary going into the second half. It's going to be really cool to see just him and Lat potentially go together in playoffs. These two Goliaths. There's every chance looking at it, they both could not lose another game before the end of the season. I'm not saying that will definitely happen. I'm not saying, like, oh yeah, well, since how he's won every game, it's going to happen again. Because there's some very good coaches and very good teams in both divisions. But, man, he's made basically the perfect start, so good on him. And we'll definitely see what Aaron can do. Unfortunately, unable to speak to Aaron today. He is on his jollies in Malta. So I hope you have a safe flight, Aaron. I hope you enjoy your holiday. We'll certainly see you in Week 6 action next week. Anyway, our next team is Crizzle's South Croydon Saws, sat there on the 3-2 record. Didn't make the best of starts week 1, losing out to Wheels Tostal Belgrade 2-1. But since then, the only blemish on the record has been losing to the aforementioned Aaron's Inglorious Service. Has been just on an absolute tear otherwise. Got a really, really strong win over Draco, a really, really strong win over Dave as well. Pretty much every win he's had has been a 2-0, and I think that's a testament to just how strong his team is. You know, that Sneasel and Kabalion duo getting the beat up going. They don't have an answer to Kabalion. It just sort of like domino effect just rolls up. And we saw as well, you know, Torkel come on the very odd occasion as well. We saw Togetic aligned with Porygon Z. Follow me to allow Porygon to Z to get even the nasty plot going, or just for it to just D-max. And, you know, Togetic with that Eviolite, just as, not quite as bulky as Togekiss, but just as bulky, and can be really sort of difficult to stop. And once the Porygon Z gets going, as you can see, sat there on 16 kills. It has the second most kills in the entirety of the British Pokemon League. That thing is an absolute monster with the adaptability ability. If you let him get a nasty plot off, then you are the fool. Because, as Dave found out, wow, it hits very hard. Crizzle's made a lot of changes, I think. Probably the second most outside of Draco and myself. As you can see there, obviously, Venucle has left the team, as went to the Buda Boys, and in return, he did get Rillaboom and Tornadus, but chose to swap out the Rillaboom for the Machoke, is keeping Tornadus, though, which is, I think, a very solid option. I did speak to Crizzle during free agency, and he did tell me that in another draft league he was playing in, that Tornadus has got the most kills for him, so that in itself, I think, is scary for the East Division. People should definitely be sort of wary of that. You know, just that fact is you've already got Porygon Z is such a strong Pokemon. If he's now got Tornadus in his arsenal, it could be very difficult to stop. He's also swapped out his G-Max as well. Machamp has went to Draco Celebies, and in return he has got the Rillaboom G-Max. So swapping out a Rillaboom and getting a Rillaboom back as well just gives him a really good option. You know, not only is it a good G-Max with that G-Max drum solo, but, you know, just the access to grassy terrain, grassy glides, and the whole host of, you know, other moves that Rillaboom gets, like Fake Out, Knock Off, High Horsepower. It's just an all-around great mon. It's probably one of my favourite Gen 8 mons, to be honest. It's just so damn good. Moving down, Togetic has gone. Togetic obviously going to the Tallstar Belgrade, which we'll get onto in a little bit, and in the return, he got the Oranguru, but has chose to swap that out for Volcarona. Volcarona is not something that saw too much up until Series 10 sort of started of Season 10 in the last week or two. And this thing has been really good in Season 10, which is mad. It's just madness that something like Volcarona is so good, but with Rage Powder and like Struggle Bug, and access to Heat Wave, it could be a really, really good Pokemon. So I'll be interested to see what Crizzle can do. As we spoke about there before with Aaron, the Slurpuff has came over to the South Croydon Saws, Fletchinder going the other way. Didn't really see that much of Fletchinder in this first half of the season for Crizzle, so I can totally understand that. I think Slurpuff is a very, very strong, solid pickup, because he has access to that unburden ability. Aromatisse, another Pokemon we just didn't see at all for Criz, so I can totally understand him from now, and has picked up a very, very good mon. Welcome back, Mudsdale, to the British Pokemon League. We saw how good that thing was with the stamina ability for Latvian, and obviously it also has access to own tempo. I think it's very likely we will see Swagger Tornadus with own tempo Mudsdale at some point during the next couple of weeks. Mudsdale is such a good Pokemon. I love that thing. You know, It's so good. I don't have words to sort of explain it. It's just such a strong Pokemon. And down there, the final change, Galvantula has been picked up, and in place has picked up the Dracozolt. Dracozolt obviously dropped by Jabba's Slithering Sceptiles, so Chris has taken full advantage of that. I mean, it was Jabba's kill leader for a reason. That alongside the T-Tar, it was so damn good. You know, that Bolt Beak move, similar to Vicious Rend, can be just so difficult to stop if you've got speed control. So can definitely understand that pickup. And Chris's team just looking really, really strong. I will keep reminding him of it. Aaron told me in pre-season that that he expected Chris to win the whole thing. I'm gonna say it again and put the pressure on Chris. I fully expect the same thing. I'm kidding. Don't worry about it, dude. Nah, really, really good team. I think got a little bit unlucky in the game versus Aaron, and I think it's going to be very close between them two when they play each other again the second half of the season. So definitely watch out for Chris. I'm not trying to jinx, I promise. But nah, Chris is a really good player, and I don't have no good things to say about the dude, and we'll definitely see what he can do as we move on into playoffs. Our next team then is the Celtic Celebies, coached by one and only Draco. A little bit like a few of the other new teams, didn't make the most perfect start, was obviously 0-2 after week 2, which by his own admittance wasn't the way he wanted as a starter. I mean, nobody wants to start a league that way, but this is the first draft league he's ever played, so you could be forgiven that sort of thing happening. But then since then, has not lost a single match. Is on a 3-match winning streak, I should say. Is now 3-2. Damn, that the Stack Attacker, the Tapu Lele, and Dracovish have been just so damn strong for him. I'm loving to see Vish doing well. Vish was probably the main reason I made it so far in playoffs in Season 1, and Vish is such a damn good Pokemon. It's surprising to see it not have the most kills, but Stack Attacker with the most kills is also not surprising in that same breath. You know, Stack Attacker, obviously with access to Ally Switch, Trick Room, can run it with Policy even if you wanted to. Yeah, just all-round strong team, and it's great to see Draco on such a good winning run, and I'm sure he'll be hoping to continue it as he moves into the second half of the season. Has made quite a number of changes, as I said. I think apart from myself and Chris, has got the most changes. A few of them we've already spoke about. So obviously Rillaboom has gone to South Croydon Soz. In return, he's got that match on Gmax. Only we saw Rillaboom the once or twice in that first half, so I'm not too surprised at seeing that. Celio has left the building, and in replace, Metang has came the other way from the Booloo Boys. Haunter, which I was quite surprised to see this go, but Haunter in replace of Coughing from Shadow Kings. Obviously, Coughing has that neutralizing gas ability, so obviously Draco does have some plans up his sleeve for that. Blaziken has dropped to free agency. In return, he's got Dottler as well as Hippodon, where he's picked up Magneton, and a really, really huge pickup coming up next. Has managed to get Jabba to part with his Tyranitar in replace of Absol. Obviously, Absol was actually swapped out for Tapu Koko, and Tapu Koko ending up on the Slithering Sceptiles. But you now have the duo of Tyranitar and Dracovish. That cannot be understated how strong of a duo that is. Obviously, T-Tar with that Sandstream can run Sandrush with Choice Band Vish, and it just hits like an absolute tank. And that is such a strong... That's just 2 of the 11 Pokemon on his team. So, really solid stuff for Draco. And I think very excited to see what those two can do moving on. Has also then picked up Regidrago in place of Vikavolt. So, as if he needed to make the team any stronger, Regidrago moves in as well. You know, with the Dragon Maw and the Dragon Energy move. If this thing hits first, you get a Tailwind or any kind of speed control off. And oh boy, is the other team in trouble. One of the best spread moves in the game, and with Dragon's Maw and potentially Specs you could run it with as well, it's going to hit super, super hard. So Draco has definitely made some big upgrades to the team, and I think he'd be very happy with the changes he's made. On top of the ones that he already had, we know how good Stack Attacker, Lele, Dracovish has been. I haven't even spoke about Drifblim as well. I mean, like, I think it was it against Newcastle Thunderous. That Driplim just refused to die. Just doesn't go down easy at all. We saw just how good of a Pokemon that could be in Season 1 on Latvia's Miami Heat. And it's really great to see it doing big things for the Celtic Sotheby's team too. Another mon that has that unburden ability, you can give it policy, whatever, and get that unburden going. And once you get the policy going as well, oof. All I will say is oof. And has obviously made a few low tier pickups as well in Magneton, Dottler, and Metang, and obviously the Coughing as well. I wouldn't write any of those Pokemon off. I think used correctly can be strong. Eviolite on a Metang. Metang has really strong defense and special defense. Not the same sort of physical attack that Metagross has, but still, there's certainly things to be done with that there. And Magneton as well with the Eviolite could be just as good. So definitely keep an eye out for those Pokemon and an eye out for Draco in the second half of Season 2. Next up on our list is the man, the myth, the legend, Jürgen Hopp's Toadstar Belgrade. A little bit like Oma, a very topsy-turvy season for the man. Won his first game of the season against South Croydon Soz, made a great start, and then lost out to his local rival in Dave's Newcastle Thunderous. I think was very frustrated with that loss. Then proceeded to beat Tugsy's Shadow Kings. I was getting my weeks mixed up. In a very controversial fashion, made a verbal agreement for Dugsy to not bring a certain Pokemon, and then and him to not bring a certain Pokemon, and then brought it anyway. Such is the man himself, Jürgen Hopp, evil, the end of legs, and then lost out, of course, to Week 5 to Aaron's and Galore Surface, and a loss to Celtic Sotheby's along the way there. I think going in this, I think we all felt very confident with this team, but it's not sort of worked out how he was hoping. But that's not... I keep saying the word discredit. I need to get a thesaurus out as a better word for discredit. That is not a discredit with his ability at all. I just think he's had a few sort of bad matchups, and I hate to use the term RNG. RNG has got the better of him a few times. But an interesting stat there, I talked about this earlier. He lost 2-0 to Aaron's Inglorious Surfers. It is the first time he has been 2-0'd since week 10 of season 1. That is a crazy record when you think about it. That means he's at least won a game even when he's lost every time since then. So that's, I have no way. It's a crazy record. Let's just be real, right? That's mental. As you can see, has made a couple of changes. The big one, the big standout one, and I know how much he was wanting this duo. He has got the Galar Weezing and Reggie Gigas duo. Now this, obviously, with the neutralizing gas, gets rid of Gigas' slow start. Gigas can be so strong and difficult to stop if you don't have the tools at your disposal to stop it. And has, of course, got rid of the G-Max Corviknight. And we welcome back G-Max Lapras. G-Max Lapras, as much as Gus unfortunately wasn't able to get the wins, this thing got so many kills in Season 1. Obviously, it uses G-Max move, G-Max Resonance, sets up the Auroraville for it, and that can be so damn strong. Does have the Gus Max Lapras, exactly. Does have Mr. Mime Galar with that screen cleaner, so they will have to be careful not to run those in tandem. Might go a little bit wrong, but I know Weo. He's a smart player, right?
Right.
I kid, of course. But yeah, Flygon has gone out into free agency in place of Galar Weezing. Umbreon swaps out for the Reggie Gigas. Orangaroo has went over South Croydon Soz in place of Togetic. Obviously, the Soz did swap out the Orangaroo. And of course, Raichu has went to the Beauty Boys, and in its place has got himself an Obstagoon. Honestly, Obstagoon, just like Blacephalon, probably won me games on its own. It's such a weird Pokemon that it has such a variant of moves at its disposal. It's just a really adaptable mon, and I said its move pool is so damn good. You can run it as a physical attacker with Defiant, or you can run it as a support mon as well. It's got, I think, Quick Guard, I believe, has Parting Shot. Really strong Pokemon. And if you look through the rest of his team now, obviously you can see Zapdos as well. has been picked up in place of Rotom Heat. That is not on the transactions page, I do apologise, but yes, Zapdos makes his first appearance in the British Pokemon League. I think that's definitely an upgrade to the central heating unit that was Rotom Heat. Zapdos, such a strong Dynamax option, and just strong Pokemon overall. Keeps hold of Jellicent, Serena. Jellicent, I mean, is just a big bulky wall. Has access to that string stop as well, which used correctly can really wall out opponents. Obviously, Serena stops any of those priority moves going off as well. Drapion, which is the kill leader for the team. That thing with a sniper ability and something like a scope lens, and you're really in business. And as we've already spoke about, the Salamence's greatest adversary, Mr. Mime Galar, and of course Wobbuffet at the bottom there, stay in the team. So I'm sure we all will be looking to get his foot in the door, start out on the as he means to go on in week 6, and get that winning run of form going again. And we'll see what Wio can do as we move on towards playoffs. Moving on, our second last team is the Newcastle Thunderous with the 1-4 record. As I said, Dave has not made the most perfect starts of life to this season 2 of the British Pokemon League. Lost out in pretty sort of convincing fashion to Dogsy in week 1, but then did get a really, really solid win in week 2 against Wheels towards Dalbug Red, as we spoke about. Unfortunately, things haven't really gone to plan since then. I think the Lando T in Sintua has just become a little bit easy to predict. We did sort of see towards the end of that first half that he started to bring a few different things. Obviously, we saw Lantern finally start making a few appearances. And of course, we've seen Ninetales and Venusaur run a few ads, but just because those two duos were there, I think it made them a little bit predictable, and that's maybe been sort of up to his downfall thus far. Lando T only on the 6 kills. I think a lot of people pre-season were expecting that number would be a lot higher, but as I spoke about when we look through the league tables, you cannot count Dave out. If there's anyone who's going to make any kind of comeback, it's going to be Dave in Newcastle Thunderous. Season 1 looked very down and out at the midway point, 2 and 5. It had been on one hell of a losing run, and then just absolutely stormed back. I think only lost once or twice in the second half of the season, so definitely someone to watch out for, and especially now the changes he's made to that team. Fletch, Talonflame, I apologise, swaps out for the Reggie Lecky. Klefki has gone to the Beauty Boys. In place, he got Dragonite, which is swapped out for the Big Boy Elephant. I am forgetting its name right now. Oh man. Anyway, moving on. Executor has swapped out for Dusknoir, the prodigal son of Dave. The prodigal son retires. Copperage, that's the one. Thank you very much, Draco. Copperage is swapping in there for Dragonite. Dusknoir makes his return to the Newcastle Thunderers. We know how good of a trick room user that has been for Dave in Season 1. And Wishcash has swapped out for Dedenne. Wishcash did make an appearance in the first half of the season, came the final week against Crystal Soft Croydon Swords. Wasn't really able to sort of get anything going, which is a little bit disappointing. But, I think if you can get something going with Dedenne, I don't really know what Dedenne does as a Pokemon, but I'm sure he's got a few tricks up his sleeve. But the one Pokemon to sort of keep an eye on there is he's picked up Regieleki. I mean, you've pretty much got 3 of the most used Mons in the format right now on that one team, and then you've also got access to like Venusaur in Under Sun. Used in the correct way, I think Dave can definitely storm back with a comeback. And if not, I don't think he'd be too disappointed. As I said, he's always said that his aim is to win at least one game, which I think he sells himself a bit short by doing that, but his aim is always to do that. And I mean, if nothing else, if he doesn't make playoffs, he did at least manage that. And I mean, we love Dave. Dave is obviously our graphics guy, does all the graphics for the British Pokemon League, and we do love that guy. But it'll be definitely great to see him make some sort of comeback and get a few more wins under his belt as we move on into the playoffs. And if we can see him on playoffs, that would be even better. Well, finally, our final team to take a look at is Dogsy's Shadow Kings. And just like Dave, has not made the best of starts. Won week 1 against aforementioned Dave, 2-0, but since then has kind of went a little bit awry. By his own admittance, I think it was very unlucky to lose against Aaron's and Glorious Surfers, or at least lose the game 1. Salaman's almost doing the impossible and making the comeback, but has lost every game since week 1 by a 2-0 fashion, so hasn't won a single game. Which I'm sure Dogsy won't mind admitting that that'd be a bit disappointing. I think a lot of people were expecting a lot better from him. That's not to put any sort of unnecessary pressure on the guy. As we just said about Dave, it's still early days. We're still only at the midway point. There's still plenty of time for Dogsy to make the comeback, and I'm sure, as you can see by those changes, that they can drag him to that. So as you can see, Airstream Dark has been dropped, and in his place has got the G-Max Blastoise. We've already spoke about Coughing going to Draco Celtic Celebrities, and in his place he's got Haunter. A few familiar faces in the next 2 months. Combuskin has went to free agency. In his place he's picked up Lipad, and Katana has been dropped for Slowbro Galar. So we saw in season 1 just how good of a duo this duo can be. It was very strong for Latvians Miami Heat, and I'm sure Dogsy will be aiming to do the same. And down there at the bottom there, Clefairy has dropped, and in its place he's picked up Ndidi. Clefairy going to Long Island Goomies, and Ndidi coming the other way. Ndidi's such a strong follow me mon. Alongside a Trickery Muser, can be really big. Another one that I've forgotten to put on the transactions, I do apologise. Grimmsnarl has been dropped for the Spectria, the Ghost Horse. I don't think you can write. I think a lot of people will favour the Ice Horse over Ghost Horse any day, but I think with Ghost Horse, one thing I really like is not only is it a strong special attacker, obviously it gets Grim Nair as well as the Ice Horse, but you can run it as a support one. You obviously gets access to Will-O-Wisp, gets Bulldoze, and it's so fast. Obviously can't be fake outed that it can usually get those moves off without a hitch. So definitely something to watch out for. And as you can see with the most kills there, Salamence with the 8 kills keeps the comfy as well, so it has access to that weakness policy proc if you wanted to go down that way. Salamence as well can also be run with Moxie or Intimidate. It has been so good for him. I think a lot of people underappreciate just how good Salamence is, because it's not really a mainstay in many VGC teams, but damn, that thing hits real hard once it gets going. So definitely don't count out that one. Blastoise, with its access to G-Max Cannonade, which is doing chip damage each turn. Definitely something people are going to have to keep an eye on as they move on into the second half of the season. And obviously keeps a hold of Ditto, Altaria, and Linoon as well. Haven't seen as much as Ditto as I was expecting from Dogsy, I will admit. But it's great to see him keep a hold of it, and we'll hopefully see a little bit more of the Ditto man himself. But now, we are going to move on to an interview with the man himself, Dogsy, Mr. Shadow Kings. I will just try and get him on the old blower. Alright, let's see if we can get a hold of the man. Hello, Mr. Dogsy.
Hello, Mr. Star. You well?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. So, as you spoke about there, you didn't make exactly the best of starts to season 2. Do you want to just sort of talk a little bit about what you think went wrong so far, and sort of what's went right and what's went wrong?
To be honest, it was not the best of starts at all. Admittedly, you called it right at the beginning. In the pre-season show.
All right.
After picks were made, which was my team was heavily supportive, which is not the style I play ever.
Right, okay.
I am quite an offensive player, but I think I was disillusioned by how well Morgram carried me, in the losers bracket last season. I kind of went with a lot more support and felt that might be the way forward.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe bring on 1 or 2 big hitters, like the Salamence and Urshifu, and so long as I had support with me, I could just redirect or, get by. It wasn't the case, obviously.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it might work for someone else, but it definitely was not something I pulled off well.
No,
especially with my play style.
I was going to say, it just didn't quite suit your play style, so just couldn't get it to work.
Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, to quote Latvian, not word for word because I can't recall what he said, but if you misstep or give opportunities to your opponents and they take it, I can't discredit anybody else's win because they rarely took on the opportunities which I unfortunately gave them. And fair play to them for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's very few times where someone doesn't win on merit. So I think that's fair to say. I said I think he got very unlucky in that game one versus Aaron. The comeback almost happened. If it wasn't for the sand being set up, then I think the comeback king was definitely on. But I think it is
Yeah,
a lot of the time
it
it
was
is
my
just
own
fine.
doing.
Yeah. I think it is just a lot of the time just fine margins, and yeah, obviously the support heaviness of the team didn't really help it. So obviously you've made a few changes going into the second half of the season that sort of hope to combat that. Do you want to just sort of give us a brief outlook on your thoughts about your changes and what you want to achieve with them?
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with, obviously, there are a couple of duos which have worked well. Comfy, Salamence, as you've seen, so
Yeah.
that's why I've kept that.
Hmm.
I've also got the Lipard Slowbro, which was quite prominent last season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I don't want to be playing too much into norms or giving people, something to expect or any ideas of what might happen.
Hmm.
I just kind of looked at where I was weak, and one of the areas of weakness, like I said, was it was heavily supportive.
Right.
So I picked on Pokemon which can be a bit offensive, but also provide that level of support, like
Like
L-
Spectria.
L- Spectria hits very hard, but can also drop a Will-O-Wisp.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
Leopard is very vulnerable, but it's got the coffee cap, but it also does hit hard if it connects as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So there are a few things there. I'm not going to give away all my plays just yet,
No.
primarily because if it doesn't work,
You'll end up with
I
an
don't
egg
want to
on your
fall back on
face.
my face.
Yeah.
But I've got a tough battle ahead of me, to be honest. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position where even if I was to play a perfect five, that would guarantee me anything. Because looking at the league standings right now, everybody else could also, play well enough with a few games just to equally get to where I need to be.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm climbing an uphill battle, but I'm definitely going to give it my all, and I look forward to the next half.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be a fight to claw it back. I think I'd worked out like mathematically that the sort of the lowest number you could sort of get a plus with is probably 5 wins, ideally 6. So it's definitely an uphill battle. But I think if playoffs in season one proved anything, um, working from the back foot suits you quite a lot.
Yes, not unfortunately not this low down, but yeah, definitely I'm going to be giving it my all, and I will obviously try and mix it up to keep everybody on their toes. Some scary teams to go up against this half.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, sort of speaking about other teams and just the league in general. So, what have been your thoughts about this first half of the season so far? Has it sort of went as expected with everyone else, or do you think like obviously I spoke about it being quite, and this is not to say that Aaron's not good enough to do that, but quite surprised that Aaron just has sort of steamrolled everyone so far. So, what's been sort of like your overview of how things have gone so far?
Say I've been surprised that Aaron has 5-0 anyone. Aaron's a very good player, very analytical. I've called it out many times when I've seen his
Yeah.
YouTube. Obviously, it's been unfortunate that other people have let him get so far ahead, but he's one of those players where you give him an opportunity, he's definitely going to make use of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say I didn't think anybody would be at 5-0, even Lat. I thought, someone would have won a game here or there, but
Yeah.
both of them have played very
Uh,
well. Aaron is a force to be reckoned with.
yeah, I'll just
He's not the only one. Like I said, there's some very tough teams to go up against, some very scary teams. Jurgen Hopp's team, for example, even Draco and Newcastle Thunderous. I don't need to give any praise to Crizzle or Aaron's teams because they already know how to use them so well anyway. But I'm just saying for those of us at the bottom half of the table, there's still some very strong contenders there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think we all mind me saying it that he's definitely upgraded that team with just by the two picks of Weezing Galar and Reggie Gigas. Like even if he doesn't bring that duo, just the threat of that coming, I think is gonna sort of always be in the sort of the back of people's minds when they're prepping to play him.
Yeah, definitely. Weo's team is very scary. I mean, he's got the redirect. He's even got the Lapras at the back.
Yeah,
You just don't know which way it's going to go.
yeah. We saw just
Obviously,
how good Lapras was in season one. I know Gus, as I said earlier, Gus wasn't able to get all the wins with that team, but like in like if If Wheel's able to use it different ways, then there's no reason why that couldn't be a really strong. Obviously, Lapras, I believe, gets access to Perish Song as well, so there's that like
It
avenue you
does.
could go down. So
It does, and just a word of warning to Newcastle Thunderers: when Perish Song is hit, make sure you switch out. So Dave should remember what Perish Song
yeah,
does.
yeah, definitely. Sorry, that sent me a bit. I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean Draco's team as well. I think Draco now having again, it's not so much that he'll definitely bring that duo all the time, but having access to Tita and Vish, is definitely a huge upgrade, to that to that
Franco's team
team.
was already very
Yeah,
tough,
oh
and
yeah,
yeah,
it was
having the addition
already
with
good.
Guitar, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, yeah. There's not a lot of things unless you've got a strong fighting move in a close combat that'll sort of bop Tita very easily, and it hits so hard as well. You know, if he gets a
Well,
pulse,
he's also got Pokemon that sort of would affect, a move on a switch-in. So, for example, he's got Matang there. If I
hmm
want to go with a Maxus with my Slowbro, for example, into a Tapu Lele,
yeah,
you could swap in the Matang. Similarly with Max Mindstorm, I'm countered again if the T-Tar comes out. So he's definitely got one of those teams where I've got to be very careful with the moves I choose.
right, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's not going to be an easy. It's not going to be an easy half ahead for me.
No, no, definitely not. Well, I haven't revealed the full schedule yet, but I will now we've got you here. You do obviously have, I don't know if Draco knows this yet, you do have Draco's Celebies in week 6, so have you already sort of thought of a game plan yet, or is it just something you sort of like, because this is sort of the difficulty we
Yeah, yeah.
usually have like at the start of the after the mid-season. This happened last season because so many teams have changed. It's almost like week 1 again where you're not quite sure what they're going to do.
I've actually done something which I'm preempting whether it could go bad or poorly. I'm going to obviously change my game plan for other teams ahead, but
Right,
I've
okay.
already created my teams for every match ahead this half.
Okay. Oh wow.
So
Nice.
I've got something in mind already.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Obviously, it's very difficult because I know it's halfway season, but there's been so many changes, so you
Yeah.
really don't know what to expect.
Yeah. This is the thing, and this happened last season as well. Is like, we came into like last season. It was we had the mid-season break at week 7, so we came into week 8, and it was like, oh, nothing is familiar now. What? Who's going to bring what? You
Yeah,
just kind of have
if
to
I'm
like.
honest.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry to cut you off there. If I'm honest, I would really have rather faced Jurgen Hop first. Not because of it being an easy win, but I feel like any plays I make against Draco, it reveals a lot of cards that I could have later on.
Play it off for other
Uh,
people. Okay.
yeah, and especially Wio's team there, where it's so diverse. I would have really loved to have played against Wio first, got that out of the way with, and then just thought, okay, how do I play against this
The
team now?
rest, yeah, the other teams, yeah. All right, so round things off then. Can I just? I know you hate doing predictions, but can I get a quick prediction for what you expect for the second half of the season for your division?
Well, Aaron's already going strong. I think one game, if not what he's already got, will already tip him up.
Yeah,
So I think Aaron's obviously a shoe in for
playoffs.
qualifying. But more likely than not, obviously first spot.
Hmm.
Um, Grizzle, I see as a very strong contender, and Wio. And then, unfortunately, I do think it's. I think Draco. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. I think Draco. I think it's gonna be Aaron, Crizzle, Wio, and Draco. That's my predictions. Obviously, that doesn't mean I'm going to give up. So I'm going to be
No, no.
fighting strong to change that for change someone else's fate there. Um, Dave has got a very strong team as well, but I think he's in a similar position to myself, where even if we 5-0 everybody, it's going to be a case of someone else that over there only needs 1 or 2 games, whereas
Yeah,
we need all of our games. So
you're
that
hoping.
that's why.
Sorry, go on. I cut you off.
No, I was going to say that's why I think the current standings will hold.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, so pretty much like you're hoping for sort of not luck, but you're hoping for things to go in your favor at that point. Because say they do win the two, they get the 2 wins, but then lose the rest. Then there is still a chance, but it comes down to like match difference and head to head records, and even if everything's the same, then the next it can even be decided by alphabetical order, which is just crazy. So I definitely think week 7 and week 8 are going to be very, very big. I think by then a lot of things could be decided, so it's going to be very interesting end of the season. But that's going to be all we've got time for, Mr. Dogs. I do thank you very much for your time, and best of luck for the second half of the season.
Yes, I'm just a word of warning for anybody. If you do beat me this half, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna ruin the league for everybody. That's it. No, I'm only kidding. Good luck, everybody. Second half. Let's have some fun. Let's enjoy Pokemon. Plenty of more Pokemon.
Plenty of Pokemon left to play. Alright, dude. Thank you very much, man. I'll see you later, dude.
Take care. See you in a bit. Bye.
That was the man, the myth, the legend, Dogsy himself there. Always great to hear from the guy. Obviously, not quite backing himself, but he is right. Him and Dave have got a very uphill struggle, and that is the same with Candies over in the West Division as well. They've got it all to do. The bonus in the West Division is, of course, that the teams ahead are all on 2 and 3. So, by week 6, Candies could be on 2 and 4, and the teams ahead of them could be on 2 and 4. But speaking of week 6, so we've revealed one fixture for next week. Let's take a look at the rest of the schedule for week 6. So, huge games over in the East Division week 6. We have got 2 local derby games. We have got South Croydon Saws versus Glorious Surface, a first versus second local rival game to kick things off for the second half of the season. That is going to be huge. Not only a top of the table clash, as Draco said there, but also these two sort of have been friends quite a while, are big rivals. It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes down. Obviously, Aaron with the advantage last time. Then we've got Newcastle Thunderous taking on Torstal Belgrade, another local rivalry. Weo and Dave have shared a lot of games over the last 2 seasons. Dave does have the 2-1 advantage in match record over Wheel, so we'll be hoping to overtime that and get back to winning ways. And as we've already spoke about, Shadow Kings taking on the Celtic Celebes. That could be a really big game in terms of Dogsy making playoffs. And obviously Draco is not going to want to end that 3-game winning streak. So Dogsy's got a big ask on his hand, and that is going to be a really, really close game, I'm sure. Then over in the West Division, Beauty Boys versus Slurring Septiles, a repeat of week 1. I'll be looking to try and get a little bit of revenge over Jabba after that week 1 defeat with the brand new squad. We'll be able to hopefully see what we can do there, and a bit like Draco, keep that winning run going. Next up, we have got this Switch Tournaments sort of derby game in Latvians Miami Heat taking on Long Island Goomies. So Silly getting that win in week 5. So can Silly be the first to stop Latvian? And of course, as we said, if Latvian or Aaron win in week 6, they have qualified for playoffs. Only that one win needed to confirm that. So looking very close. And of course, our final game of the week, California Basildons versus 200 Candies. Obviously, Candies getting the better of the Basildons last time these two played, so Omo will be looking for a little bit of revenge there. And yeah, we're out of silly season now. We are into the business end of the season as we make our final run towards playoffs. So a lot to play for. It's going to be very, very exciting couple of weeks, and we should hopefully be finished up by August the 15th is when the season should be finishing, and playoffs will take place during the weekend of the 21st and 22nd, and the weekend of the 28th and 29th of August. I don't have a season 3 start date for you. It's a little bit early in the early doors for that, but I will let you know on that. One thing I do have to note is, unfortunately, due to my work schedule, I'm now going to be working Saturdays and Sundays all day. So the British Pokemon League show from not next week, the week after, so it'll be where we are. That's in August. I've got the calendar open here. The weekend, it'll be the 19th of July. The week 6 show, British Pokemon League show, will be airing live on the Twitch channel from 8 o'clock. So keep an eye out for that. Hope you've all enjoyed the show. I've been your host, Matt Starr. I will see you all in a couple of weeks' time. Mwah!